for joining us today at Jet Airways office. It's a pleasure to be here. Tell us about your background in aviation. You've spent 22 years at Lufthansa and then now 1 year at Jet Airways. Tell us about yourself a little.
Yeah, actually I started in 1985. I moved, I was temporarily living in Europe and I moved back to the United States, and I had an opportunity and I joined Lufthansa back in 1985. So I started reservations, doing call center, then I did ticketing, then from ticketing I went into pricing, and then from pricing I took over some other responsibilities. So every 2 years in a way, somehow it ended up averaging every 2 years that I was doing I had additional responsibilities and moving up my career within the company. Some of the responsibilities that I had at the end was taking care of the leisure, being responsible for leisure sales, which is everything but corporate. Responsibilities lie on ethnic business as well as tour operators and crews, as well direct business, online business, and I also was in charge of pricing and analysis. We had a division of doing automation, and the largest unit that I had was actually on the sales support side, or sales services, which included corporate sales support, leisure sales support, as well as group sales, and that was pretty much all of it for the United States.
And what about Jet Airways? How's your new role different from what you did at Lufthansa?
Well, it's a much smaller team. Looking back at Lufthansa, I had about 130 people. Here, of course, it's a very lean organization, so the responsibilities perhaps maybe have been at times similar, but definitely smaller in scale. However, with Jet Airways now, I am responsible for corporate sales, which I didn't have at Lufthansa before. I did for a 2-year period at Lufthansa when I was working in Manhattan, but when I left, I didn't have corporate. So now I have corporate sales as well as marketing responsibility, which is also a little bit new. So I never really had too much to do with marketing. So that's exciting, and it's for North America.
That's nice.
So I include Canada now.
Okay. Yeah, they have a Toronto destination as well.
Right.
What's been your personal high point at Jet Airways thus far?
Well, it hasn't been quite a year yet, and I would like to actually say that I haven't really reached a high point yet. I think it's been quite a roller coaster ride so far, just because of the whole market environment.
Right.
It's extremely interesting, challenging to be part of the Jet Airways family, and building up the company here in the United States is a wonderful experience, and if I would probably say it's one of the high points just going into that. Right. But you know, with the fuel and with the economy, and it just constantly being thrown hurdles, so it's been quite a challenge.
Interesting. Now, what's been one of the key success factors for Jet Airways in the US, according to you?
I would say clearly the product, the service of the company is by far beyond anything that I have experienced with travel. And you know, I've flown so much around the world and with so many different companies. I've never come across anything like that. So it's definitely a very big positive for Jet Airways' strength, for sure.
That's nice. And how does Jet Airways create its brand strategy in the US around this?
We had changed the crew, so they went from a different uniform set.
Yep.
To establish themselves and stand out a bit different. They have these beautiful yellow jackets, so their uniforms are absolutely outstanding, and we used that in the brand campaign. Change the way you fly. It was all about the product service aspect, as well as, of course, focusing a lot of our marketing activities onto the premier class and first class travelers, so the business travelers of the world.
Right. And who are you competing against? Is it more the European carriers like Lufthansa or British Airways, or is it the Indian carriers or the American carriers with Fly Direct?
A little bit of both, I guess, in a way, because depending on the company that you're talking to or the customer that you're talking to, depending what's more important for them. If you look at our schedule, from the schedule perspective, of course our competitors are clearly Lufthansa and, British Airways or France, etc. The typical. But from a schedule perspective, then of course it comes a bit more tricky, and then you say, okay, well, the nonstop carriers pose competitive pressure as well.
Mm-hmm. Right. And what were some of the unique challenges you encountered while entering the US market?
The lack of brand recognition.
Mm-hmm.
It really is still something that we clearly need to do a lot more of. There is a certain amount of areas in the United States and within the Indian or South Asian population, because we've been in business since 1993, more on the domestic side, a lot of people know us from those days. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to the mainstream, when it comes to the general public, they have no clue who we are.
Right.
And you need to do a lot. It takes time and a lot of effort and a lot of marketing ideas and thinking out of the box in order to get that name out quickly.
Right. Was there any confusion with the JetBlue Airways and Jet Airways?
All the time. Whenever somebody asked me, who do I work with, I said Jet Airways, and they said, oh, you mean JetBlue? And I said, no, not JetBlue. So yes, clearly there is definitely confusion.
And what are some of the ways that Jet Airways has differentiated itself, not just from JetBlue, but other carriers as well? Some of the marketing initiatives.
Honestly, I don't. I see some of the ads that other airlines are doing. Some of them that have been established, they somehow talk about, things that perhaps maybe we wouldn't. We are really talking about the changing your experience in flight.
Right.
And the other airlines might not necessarily focus on that. They're talking about comfort of a seat. They're talking about, because a lot of people know them, so they're really trying to find what is new to communicate. With us, everything is pretty much new. Mm-hmm. So it hasn't really come to a point where we're trying to figure out a more creative way to communicate what's new, but rather, pay attention, we're here.
Right. And so what are some of the mediums you've been paying attention to? Is it just advertising, or do you sponsor events or road shows or something else?
We do, I guess, a combination of all. I think any time where you're looking at the marketing activities, of course, there's a certain amount that you really look at where your money is spent best. Mm-hmm. And the typical TV, radio, it's an expensive proposition for an airline to really utilize, yet we've seen that TV attracts a lot of attention, and the ROI, the return on investment that you spend for TV, actually does pay off. I wouldn't necessarily say mainstream TV, but definitely some of ZTV and the ethnic channels that are existence clearly do still raise enough awareness. So we've used TV, we've used radio a little bit, we definitely use magazines, ads, and we try to look into some areas of focus, so business traveler, in some niche areas.